Let me give you a little update. We've been having a really tough time. Actually, now Theodore is doing fantastically.
Yeah.
But when we first came home, I guess Ela wasn't like lactating enough and he wasn't eating enough and he was like starving. We didn't really know. Like the first night back, I'm trying to think how it lined up with the last episode we did. I think it was after that. Yeah, it was the night after that podcast, or the night of that podcast. He was just inconsolable. Like, I mean, newborns are supposed to sleep like 18 hours a day. He probably slept for 5 hours, and he was like 10 out of 10 hysteria crying the rest of the time. And we couldn't figure it out. We didn't understand what we were doing wrong. We didn't understand why he was so upset. So we took him to the doctor the next day on Sunday. That was like the longest day of my life, bro. Like, seriously, one of the worst days of my life. Just pacing back and forth with him for hours and just unconsolable. And he wasn't peeing at all, which is really concerning because it means he's like super dehydrated. And I was calling like a helpline all night, which was so unfucking helpful.
They usually are.
They just keep asking me like so many questions. I mean, it was a Kaiser helpline, so I figured they would fucking know what the hell they were doing, but they just kept asking me questions, and then at the end I was like, listen, are we going anywhere with this? Because like I need to actually attend to my child. And I just ended up hanging up on him. But we ended up seeing the doctor the next day, and Theodore had lost like 10% of his body weight, which babies are supposed to lose a lot of weight after they're born, because there's kind of like a couple days grace period before they start feeding, because like it takes time for a mother's milk to come in. But he wasn't really getting any food. He was breastfeeding, so it's hard to know how much is coming out. But he wasn't getting any food, and he had lost like 10% of his body weight, and he was just hysterical. And it was hard. It was really devastating. It was a really, really hard night. But I'm glad we went to the doctor the next day. They started feeding him formula. And the moment we gave him that first bottle of formula, it was like the first time he ever ate. He was crying, inconsolable. You put the thing in his mouth, and his eyes just glaze over. He's like crying, and then glaze over, sucking. Like, best thing ever. He goes from like a 10. He's just going hysterical to... It was such a relief, so amazing to see him so happy. And he literally chugged that bitch down and immediately was just like fell asleep. And since we figured it out, he's just been sleeping he's like a perfect angel. I mean, he eats, he shits, he sleeps. I don't think he's even cried one single time since that first night.
That's awesome.
I mean, he really is just such an angel now. Yeah, he's doing great, but so we kept feeding him, and then the next day we went back for another follow-up appointment, and he still hadn't peed though, which I guess is just because he was so dehydrated and lost so much weight that his body just was using all the liquid. It was pretty crazy. Now he's peeing like nonstop. I mean, the dude is a pee machine, a poop machine. He's crushing it. But he hadn't peed in like 48 hours. And so we went to the doctor, and the doctor was super concerned that he hadn't peed. And we kept feeding him while we were there. And the doctor said, you got to wait here until he pees. We need to know what's going on. So we're there for 3 hours feeding him, and he doesn't frickin' pee. And the doctor says that she needs to put a catheter in him.
Whoa.
And that was like, Ela was hysterical. She was crying. She was super upset. And it's, I mean, that's got to be fucked up. Like, there's no painkillers involved. He's this little guy. He's just, how the hell do you put a catheter in a newborn baby? It's just fucked up. So we said, listen, let's just wait 1 more hour, okay? Let's keep feeding him. Let's just wait 1 more hour. I know he's eating. And luckily, we never had to put the catheter in him, thank God. But the nurse came out. They were ready to take him away and put a catheter. And it turns out that actually on diapers, there's like a yellow line that turns blue when they pee, when it gets wet. And for some reason, the line hadn't turned blue, but we think he had made a pee in his diaper. And so we showed it to the doctor, and she says, okay, send him home. We'll send you guys home. We're not going to do the catheter. Just keep an eye on him. We took him home, and lo and behold, the guy hasn't stopped peeing since. So we averted that crisis, thank God. That would have just been so traumatic. And the thing was that he was sleeping peacefully. He was so happy and content because he was eating. He was sleeping. So he wasn't in any discomfort. So I was like, there's no freaking way that we need to put a catheter in this dude. If he was in pain, if he was crying, if he was suffering, then I would be like, yeah, let's figure out what's going on. But the fact that he was so content made me very apprehensive. And luckily, it's all good. So it was a really, probably I swear to God, it was one of the longest days. Like, I called my mom at 4:30, and I was like, Mom, you have to come right now. Because I hadn't slept in probably like 48 hours. And me and Hila he was just crying, and there was just nothing we could do to console him. And I was just like, and nobody really understood what was going on. A lot of people were being like, oh, that's just normal. He's a newborn baby. I don't know, it just didn't seem normal that he was so inconsolable. But we finally figured it out. And my mom came over at 4:30 and watched him. And we got to sleep for 3 hours. But we were both really, that was one of the longest days ever. That being said, he's sleeping like a champ. It's so nice now. Like, we went through baby boot camp. Because now it's like, with the formula too, because Hila's still pumping breast milk, so he's getting both, kind of, which is good. But we're able to take shifts. So, like, he needs to eat every 3 hours. So at 1 o'clock, Hila will feed him, let's just say, and then in 3 hours, I wake up and I feed him the formula, because Hila doesn't need to be awake to breastfeed him. You feed him, you burp him, you change his diaper, and then he's sleeping like a goddamn angel. A blessed angel. I'm not going to say goddamn about my own child. He's a blessed angel. So we actually are able to get like 6 hours stretch of sleep when we're on shifts. So it's actually great. And then during the day, he just sleeps and we hang out and it's so cute. He sleeps on you. It's like the sweetest thing when you feed him. And then when he's done, he just will pass out right on your chest like this. It's it's the best. So it's fun, man. It's been great. It's been fantastic. Everyone's doing good. Hila's recovering well. Hila already looks like she was never pregnant. It's like magic. I don't know what's going on with her. She's like wearing her normal clothes and shit. I was like, whoa, where did you come from? Come here, mommy, make out day. You got a piece of that ass, girl.